everyone, I hope you're good, guys, and welcome for the part 2 where I explain my dub techno template number 2. So here was the track just to remind you. So today we're gonna talk more about the arrangement, mixing and mastering. Alright, so let's dig into the arrangement. So just before to start, this arrangement is a bit unusual. You know, usually you have something like intro, chorus, verse 1, chorus, verse 2, outro. This kind of basic, like this kind of arrangement, and which I try to sometimes follow. Always, you know, it's not always that rigid, but it's kind of the stuff. So rather than here, it'll be more like you have a chorus, and then after you have the verse, and then after you have a second verse, and then after you got the chorus again. So just let me explain you. I put this like this just to help you understand the structure. It's no, don't pay too much attention to verse, chorus, so exactly, but basically every time was this main key played is what I call the chorus, because it's kind of the main lead of the track. And I call verse when it was more like this scent, you know, like this guitar scent. So that was what my idea, you know, when this one is playing, it's more like the chorus, and when this end is playing, it's more like the verse. So that will help you understand the whole structure, how I've built the things, and why I named them like this. Basically, I wanted like something like a very ambient pad and dub chord, but I didn't want it to be like the dub chord to be too much the center of the track. Like it's usually, you know, usually it's like the dub chord is really like the main element. I wanted to take it a little bit to not be the star of the track, let's say. Okay, so the track start like this, just the pad with the noise, and you have this reverse key as well, which is gonna add a nice movement from the left to the right and add variation. Then I add the perk. You know, that's kind of to say to the listener, okay, there is some groovy stuff coming, stay tuned, kind of. And then I introduce the kick and the bass, as I introduce the chord as well, and the random path. So that's kind of the beginning of the track, the true beginning with the groove and everything. And then I add slightly the hats and this chord 2, which is like the percussive one. And then what you will usually have here, what I will usually put is a break, you know, like this I can introduce the lead 1, but here I decided to don't put break and straight away put the key and kind of renaming that as chorus 1 straight away. And here I add variation with the kick. We already are in the chorus 1 without any break, if I can say so. So that's personal choice. That might sound weird, but I wanted to have a different arrangement than what I'm doing usually, because if I always do the same arrangement, it's not really funny. And so here you will have kind of very short break. I don't consider it like a break, but sorry. So here I call it chorus 1 bridge, so it's kind of still the chorus because you have the main lead, but I call it bridge because you have this element, this main scent, which is basically part of the verse, what I've called the verse. But you see it's playing, it's like the introduction of the sound, but it's still part of the main of this part, so it's like a kind of a bridge, you know, it's kind of transition between chorus and the verse, this part. Because you still have the main lead from the chorus, but you still have the main lead from the verse 1, which is coming after as well, but playing differently, obviously. So you have which which is great because it's adding variation to the chorus one. It's kind of chorus one bis slash bridge. And then come the break. So obviously the point of the break is to get rid of all of the elements of the chorus. So I get rid of the chords 1 and chord 2. I don't play the main lead key anymore. I don't have the reverse key neither now. And I cut as well the perks. And this way it's gonna help me to make the transition into the verse 1 easier. So now you have the main lead of the verse, which is playing a different pattern. So I like to do that because like this is break from something to be too repetitive, you know, like if I was keeping this key and this chord, it would have to be repetitive. Here a new element arrives, it's fresh. You still have the pad. So on the first part, the pad was a bit more like in the background, if I can say so. You see like the filter is very low, so you barely hear it. And then I bring it up for this part. Rather than here, you will barely hear it. You know, it was there, but without really being there. So basically, in the verse, like the pad and the send are a bit more like the star of the show, if I can say so. And then after, I add variation. As well, I add the reverse key. That's work always way well to be on the background. Going left to right, adding texture, variation. Then I introduce the hats. And then I introduce as well this key true, which is like the point is to be hypnotic, so it's gonna play like a very same repetitive note, but in purpose to be like kind of hypnotize the listener. Then the perk coming. Alright. And now we are into the breakthrough. So here basically you will expect like we finish with the verse. So basically what I would have done in the normal arrangement, I would have get rid of this scent, you see, that was like the lead of the verse, and I would have introduced back this key from the chorus 1, but I decided to do differently and to basically kind of creating a verse 2 or a verse 1 bis, if I can say so. Basically I keep the same scent as the main lead, but I make it play a different pattern. You can see here it's like playing the melody a little bit less. It's, you know, the first part is just plain straight, but this way I introduce as well the chord, which were not here, and so it's kind of giving a different vibes. You know, there is often in track, there is always this part of the track where this is not like kind of the boring part, but you know, it's the part where usually you don't have any more of the main element anymore, and it's just like you do that to break the repetition of the track, and you always have this part where it's like kind of boring, if I can say so. And this part is kind of playing this role, you know. You still don't have your key, and you have a different pattern than the one before. But you have the chords who are back. You have this hypnotic scent as well. So yeah, basically this verse 2 is kind of verse 2 / bridge into the next chorus. it's, you know, it's kind of hard to define the arrangement because it's a bit like unusual. So, but then I've got the break tree when I say, okay, let's introduce back the key. So now we're gonna move from the verse to the chorus again, but I decided to keep the scent anyway. And so yeah, you have the key back, and yeah, and then after everything played together. So you can see here it's like, I call it chorus 2, but basically you have all the elements playing together. So you have the element from the verse 1, from the verse 2, and from the chorus bridge. All are playing in this part of the track, which is basically like the last final climax momentum of the track. And then we go to final break, and here as well I've done a bit something different than usually. So here what will you expect is like to getting rid of this both main lead, you know, because after you got the outro, but I say, okay, no, let's not get rid of them, let's keep them, at least the key one, a little bit longer for 8 more bars. But yeah, the break is still helping like to make the listener understand like, okay, there is some changement. That's the point of the break as well, you know. That's what I've done here, that's why there is a break here. It's like, break is always good to say, okay, you see, now there is some changement, there is some stuff who are changing, get ready. That's what's happening here. You know, things are changing, and then this one is the last time you hear this pattern. Now it's just a straight pattern. So this is the same, you know. It's kind of a chorus, it's kind of an outro, it's kind of a bridge between the chorus and the outro. It's a kind of hard to really define exactly what it is, but it's a bit of mix of everything. And then you get rid of the all of the main sound. And you go slowly through the outro. So then after 8th bar, I decide to get rid of the perk and the snare and the arts. And it's just really the main element part, chords and noise to finish with. So yeah, that was a very special arrangement, I reckon. I never done something like this before, but it was working for this track, you know. It's good sometimes to try things different, to don't always, like I say, intro, break, chorus, bridge, verse, break, chorus, bridge, verse, break, outro. You know, this kind of which is more like a more normal arrangement, if I can say so. And yeah, so then on the Mixdown, it's just like some, I need to talk about it, it's just some lookups. You see, it's like, I like to use that for the break most usually. Not always, you can see here but I like it because it's kind of making the listener understand it's a break, but without really breaking the groove, you know that soon it's gonna start back again, so it's kind of making the listener understand that the groove gonna start back again soon. And then Then I used my riser effect, which is kind of like effect with a lot of delay and reverb. You see, like this kind of DJ. I'm gonna accentuate the effect. You're gonna understand. It's kind of a pioneer DJ effect. And yeah, but it was very subtle because here, obviously, you don't want this kind of stuff. You want like very subtle things, and that's what I've done here. And I think that's it all for the arrangement. I think I explained you more or less everything. I haven't shown you the automation, but yeah, there is a lot of automation along the track. The hats, I told you, I automate the GK. For example, at the intro, I explained this in the previous video, like very close, like more like a close hi-hat. Then after, it's more like middle open, and then sound really like open hats. And then after, here it's acting like a shaker, but same, it's like opening, closing, and I have some delay. Here the kick, I had some variation I show as well in the previous video. This is up to you. I tried to put another part of the track, but I didn't like it. I just like on this part, so I just leave it on this part. That's up to you. It's kind of... this usually you could have replaced it with like tom, but I use the kick. You know, I put the velocity a little bit down. The snare I showed you last time as well. They play on the same time as the kick, but this one is a little bit outside. You see, usually like the classic pattern is like put it exactly on where the kick hit, rather than here. You can see. And yes, perk short are changing. That's great as well to always trying to. It's not like a big difference between this one. I mean, I really moved the low tom, but it's not like huge, but it's sort of different, and it's always nice. Random perk I show, baseline I explain. Pad, yeah, pad I needed to show you. So here I automate like this, made the automation like this. Like when I needed the pad to be in the front, I opened the filter a little bit more. You see like 460 Hz. When I want it to be in the background, like here for example, there is the main key playing, there is the chord, so it's a lot of element, and I really wanted to avoid everything messed up together, so I bring the filter down. But then after, when I don't have here in this part, I don't have the, you see the main key, and I don't have the chord need anymore, so I can allow myself to bring a little bit the pad up, put it more in the front, taking it back. And that's what I've done along the track. And that's good for sound design, but that's good as well for your mix, because like this, in a certain way, you avoid frequency conflict. Same the chord, you know, I like to always have at least each element, each track, like the chord or the pad, at least one parameter automating along the track. Is just, I don't know. You know, sometimes you are like, oh, it's very subtle. You don't really pay attention in the whole track. But honestly, I'm pretty sure it's making a big difference. You know, if you, because when I re-listen, for example, the track when I was at the beginning, or when I was doing at all this automation, everything looked like super rigid, super like boring, super like straight. Nothing is moving, you know. Rather than now, it's like, even if it's subtle, you know, like you kind of trick your ears, and it works. So I mean, it was, for me, it was the effort to kind of having all this subtle variation. Yeah, no, this one I haven't modified nothing. Yeah, just a bit of auto pan is moving left and right. But yes, I wanted to talk about the panning actually. Yeah, but that's more the mixing. But yeah, it's part of arrangement mixing. I'm gonna jump into it. So yeah, as you can see, I kind of pan. Like, just look at the perk where they are pan. You can see that it's like this one is straight on the left, this one straight on the right. And yeah. So I've done that to really like have a very wide stereo field. You know, like this kind of sound is this kind of techno is really nice. This ambient techno to have like a very wide spectrum, like a very wide sound. And yeah, everything is kind of pan. So this one you see is a bit on the right, the key. The scent is gonna be a bit more on the left, you see here. The key here, a little bit on the right. The noise, very wide. And you see for the chord 1 on the right, a little bit. And chord 2 straight on the left. And yeah, that's why you don't have like element overlapping to each other. And the pad is like very widely stereo anyway. But yeah, usually I don't go that much crazy on the panning, but for this kind of track, I just feel it to it, and it was making sense for me to have everything a bit widely pan, if I can say so. So yeah, speaking of mixing, you can see that, I mean, if you're familiar with my video, you know that I usually, my mixing is pretty simple. It's always like saturation EQ, delay and reverb. You can see it's always saturation to add a bit of loudness and crispiness, and EQ I always cut frequency I don't need, and I always boost the one I need, and I do that for pretty almost all the element. I add some reverb obviously most of the time. Here I've done it inside, but you see saturation, EQ, reverb. You can see that the pattern, it's repeating. EQ, here's the reverb and the delay out there. It's the, if you're very careful, I always think that if you're very careful with the song you're picking it, the sample you are picking it, every time you add a sound, you make sure that it's not gonna overlap another sound. It's gonna be on his own space by default. This way you mix is easy, you know. It should be like almost just EQ, you know, because you don't even need to use compressor because it's not recorded music. You see, it's like everything can be controlled. The volume can be controlled or automate. You know, it's not like recorded music that you don't have choice. You know, it's like it's down. Here you always have the choice to come back, modify, automate. So that's why it's always just EQ, you know. Yeah, if I want, for example, if I want the sound to be a bit more punchier, I will check the envelope. So this way I make it pluckier. I don't need to use a compressor. If I want to be softer, I reduce the envelope, or I bring the attack a little bit like this. Like this I made my sound softer. So that's why I honestly mixing, I mean, you can see, yeah, there is almost nothing and it doesn't sound bad at all. But each element is pan at his own position. Each element has the useless frequency cut. Each element is pan. Each element is loud enough at the right level. And yeah, I think that's it for mix. So finally, let's talk quickly about the mastering. So, I mean, you can see I'm gonna remove the master. The track was already sounding great, you see? As usual, usually if you have a good mix, you don't need much for master. And it's a pretty simple mastering, you can see. Is same. If you're familiar with my video, you know what I'm gonna do. Utility, making the bass under the bass mono under 120 Hz. Adding a bit of width with the utility. Blue compressor. That's the same. Just, you know, like not too long, not too fast attack. Drill is here. Ratio 4. And then I just apply like to have 2-3 dB of reduction, even less here. Here I try to use the clip of the soft clip of the compressor. I don't know, I feel I prefer like this with soft, but honestly I think if you do a blind test I won't be able to know which one is which one. But yeah, just to glue everything together. You can hear that subtle, but does the job. Some EQ, so EQ it's always there. Here, could have cut a bit at 25 maybe, but and then I always like usually boost around the kick. So depends. Sometimes it's more here. I like it here, you know. Just anyways, just a few dB of gain or a few dB of reduction, like. It's always very subtle, eh? I'm never doing that. But I like to use it always to trying to remove a little bit of the muddiness and to always like kind of accentuating like important element of the track, like trying to really make the track shine. But this after is depend the frequency. I'm just sweeping like this until I found the frequency I like and I boost. And yeah, and then I've got mid-side EQ. And I almost done nothing. I've just done in the mid EQ. I just boot here because that's where was like the scent. You're gonna see if I almost done it, especially for this one. But then the side is really like to emphasize the the stereo a little bit. Up if I just put. Then a bit of, that's the same, is super gentle. And then limiter is just to cut some peak and add a bit of. I could have been a bit more gentle, but yeah. Alright, that's it. I think I show you everything, Sky. Thank you very much for watching. You can get the template, the link is in the description. And see you soon, guys. Bye bye. Thank you for watching.